Okay, so here's just a real quick one. The story of the Passover in the Old Testament. So when Moses, by God's direction, was delivering the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, out of their slavery in the world, so to speak, the last plague was the plague of the death of the firstborn. And what they had to do to not have their firstborn die was they had to sacrifice a lamb without blemish. Had to be a perfect lamb. And then some of the blood, they would put it on the doorposts, above the doorposts of their house. And that way, the death angel, when it came over the land of Egypt to slay the firstborn male child and firstborn male of all the livestock, it would pass over the houses of the children of Israel because they put the blood of the lamb on their doorposts. And of course, they're supposed to eat the lamb. You know, they don't just kill it and let it to rot, but you actually eat the meat as part of the sacrificial system in Israel. And some of it you burn as a sacrifice to God. So, anyways, that took place on the 14th of Nisan. The 14th. So, in Jewish tradition, in their culture, with the Israelites, when it becomes evening, that's when the next day starts. So in other words, if today's the 1st, and then it becomes evening later on today, as soon as it becomes evening, the sun goes down. Now it's the 2nd. So their day goes from evening to evening, unlike our traditional way of doing it, which is from midnight to midnight. So this Passover was commanded to take place on the 14th of Nisan, which from the Gentile point of view, the non-Israel point of view, it would have still been the 13th. Because on the 13th, they prepared the Passover lamb in the evening. So it was the 14th for them, but according to the Egyptians, it was the 13th. So according to the world's point of view, it was the 13th, and according to God's people's point of view, it was the 14th. And so you fast forward all the way up until the time of Jesus, and he prepared the Passover with his disciples on that very day, which would have been the same day because it was commanded that it starts on the 14th and it lasts through the 21st. So the Passover started on the 14th. There's some difference of opinion amongst Bible scholars about this, but that's what the Israelites were commanded, and they followed this for a couple thousand years or more. And so Jesus instituted the Passover with his disciples, where he showed that he was the bread of life, that he was that bread that they were breaking at the Passover, and that it was his blood that was the fulfillment of that lamb's blood. And this took place on what would have been, from the world's point of view, the 13th. And then, of course, you know that he was hung on the cross on Friday. That's why we call it Good Friday, right? Because Jesus died for our sins on Good Friday, which was a couple days later. So, anyways, my point in all this is, we always hear that the 13th is 13. The number 13 is bad luck. Hotels don't have a 13th floor, and they'll often skip the room number that ends in 13. And you have the movies, Friday the 13th. And from the world's point of view, not God's people, but people who aren't God's people, from their point of view, the 13th is a bad luck number. From the time of Egypt, it was the day their firstborn died throughout all the land. And for the enemies of God and for Satan, when Jesus instituted the Passover with a new covenant, it was also that same day, the 13th. And then, of course, he hung on the cross on Friday. So it's funny that the world's point of view is that the 13th is a bad day, and Friday the 13th is signified as really bad. But according to the scriptures, that is the day where God gave us our redemption. And it's actually, according to the Hebrew reckoning, the 14th, because it became evening on the 14th. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was fun to do that since you sent me that video earlier. All right, bye.